Prepare to delve into the shadows of a past that collective memory refuses to forget. On April 4, 2007, the cry for justice from teachers in Neuquén was silenced by an act of brutal and inexplicable violence. The order was clear: unblock the highway at any cost. Amidst the whirlwind of fury and despair, Carlos Fuentealba fell, struck by a shot at point-blank range. This tragedy not only tore apart the hearts of his family and colleagues, but also sent a shockwave throughout the nation. Thousands took to the streets, clamoring for answers that seemed to get lost in the corridors of power. But behind the smokescreen and the figure of the police officer who pulled the trigger, a veil of mystery hangs over the true instigators. Prepare for a dark and unsettling journey, where we will unravel the layers of an injustice that echoes to this day. This episode is a painful testament, a relentless search for the truth that stubbornly remains hidden. Haunting questions. What dark secrets did power try to bury beneath the asphalt of that highway? Is true justice for Carlos Fuentealba still a distant mirage? How many other silenced cries lie beneath the weight of impunity? Don't let the memory of this struggle fade away. Watch until the end and join us in this search for answers that society demands. Hello everyone, welcome to the True Crime Files Investigations channel. If you are a lover of real criminal stories, get ready for an exciting marathon. Every week, we will explore shocking and remarkable cases, the most complex and intriguing ones, with an in-depth analysis of the details and motivations behind each event, which leads us to question human nature. Subscribe to the channel and activate the notification bell so you don't miss any new videos, and ensure you're always up to date with our exclusive content. Leave your like to strengthen our community and motivate me to bring more and more impactful and unprecedented stories. Get ready to discover the backstage of the crime world, learn about the failures of the judicial system and the stories of victims fighting for justice. Welcome to an investigative and emotional journey. I count on you on this journey. The truth is about to be revealed. So, fasten your seatbelts, because the investigation begins now. In Junín de los Andes, in the province of Neuquén, Argentina, Carlos Fuentealba was born on September 14, 1966. A dedicated teacher, he taught chemistry at a school in a humble neighborhood of the city, where his passion for education shaped the future of many young people. The year 2007 marked a period of intense mobilization for teachers in Neuquén. In March, the ATEN Union, Association of Education Workers of Neuquén, launched a forceful series of protests throughout the province. The united voice of the educators echoed for better salaries and dignified working conditions, a justified outcry given the low wages and precarious conditions plaguing public schools at that time. To understand the magnitude of this movement, it is crucial to contextualize the national scenario of that era. Classes in a large part of the country had not even started or were facing imminent strikes, revealing a climate of latent tensions in education. Three provinces stood out for their fierce dispute: Salta, Santa Cruz, and Neuquén, where the inflexibility of local governments exacerbated the conflicts. In Salta, the strike became indefinite, culminating in a hunger strike and the autonomous organization of teachers and assemblies, a reaction to what they considered abandonment by the union. In Santa Cruz, the strength of the mobilization translated into massive marches, road blockades, and the isolation of oil fields, garnering the support of other public employees and the general population. Despite government attempts to weaken the movement with intimidation and the conspicuous presence of the National Gendarmerie, the strike persisted for 41 days, culminating in an initial victory with an increase in the basic salary from 161 to 500 pesos and the subsequent resignation of Governor Carlos Sancho in September of that year. In Neuquén, the strike, led by the directorates of Marcelo Gualiardo of Provincial ATEN and Gustavo Aguirre of ATEN Capital, began on March 5. The fervor of the demands intensified as events unfolded. From the outset, the participation was massive, driven by the Assembly's demand for a salary that covered the family cost of living, estimated at just over 2,800 pesos at the time, in addition to the regularization of contracted service staff and the improvement of school infrastructure, among other urgent demands. Faced with the inertia of the government of Jorge Sobish, whose salary offer of 1,140 pesos was considered derisory, the assemblies decided to block the highway in Arroyito, a strategy to impact tourist flow during Holy Week and force the government to negotiate. On Wednesday, April 4th, teachers, including Carlos Fuentealba and his colleagues, gathered to block National Highway 22. The protest was peaceful, although it carried the latent tension of a conflict that had dragged on for weeks with no prospect of resolution. Around mid-morning, while some teachers were already considering returning, the order issued by the provincial government to unblock the highway at any cost sounded like a tragic omen. Immediately, the Despo, the elite troop of the provincial police, advanced on the protesters. The air became unbreathable with tear gas, and rubber bullets whizzed, seeking to disperse the crowd of educators. In a matter of seconds, the situation degenerated into chaos, and a desperate rush took over the scene as people tried to protect themselves from the brutal police repression. Vehicles tried to maneuver amidst the smoke and anguished cries. The repression unfolded in 3 waves of advance and retreat by the security forces. In one of these moments of terror, the teachers sought refuge in an IPF gas station nearby, but not even there did they escape the effects of the gas, being forced to run into the open field. After a brief truce negotiated between the police chiefs and the union leadership, the demonstration began to withdraw along the highway towards Neuquén. Some walked, others rode in vehicles, among them the Fiat 147 where Carlos Fuentealba was. A fateful detail: the car where Carlos was riding brushed one of its mirrors against a police officer. Deputy Commissioner Acuils Gonzalez ordered the vehicle to be stopped. It was at that moment that a member of the Zapala Special Group brandished his gas pistol and cowardly fired at the rear window of the car, less than 7 meters away. The shooter was First Corporal Jose Dario Pobletti. The tear gas grenade pierced the glass and struck Fuentealba directly in the head, causing a severe craniocerebral trauma. The impact was brutal, a blow that momentarily silenced the voice of the struggle for a more just education. The reaction of Carlos's companions was one of despair. They tried to help him amidst the chaos, while Pobletti and other police officers coldly observed the scene without offering any assistance. Fuentealba was rushed to the provincial hospital Castro Rendon, but the severity of his injuries already foreshadowed the worst. While Carlos Fuentealba fought for his life in a hospital bed, the news of the brutal aggression spread like wildfire. What had begun as a protest for better wages was about to become one of the most emblematic cases of institutional violence in Argentina's recent history. In a shocking contrast to the gravity of the situation, Governor Sobish held a press conference at the government house. The community's reaction was immediate and spontaneous. The building was surrounded by indignant teachers, forcing the governor to leave the premises disguised as a police officer, a futile attempt to escape the popular fury. In his statement, Sobish tried to minimize his responsibility. However, his words rang hollow in the face of the brutality of the facts. Hours later, the news no one wanted to hear arrived. Carlos Fuentealba had passed away, a victim of the irreparable damage caused by the gunshot. The anger and pain of teachers, family members, and a large part of civil society overflowed into spontaneous demonstrations that took to the streets that same afternoon. Thousands of people mobilized, demanding justice and vehemently repudiating police violence. The headquarters of the Neuquén government became a mural of indignation. The commotion was palpable, expressed in words laden with sadness and outrage. In the early afternoon, the first column of protesters arrived at the city's main square, raising their voices in unison. Banners, flags, and cries echoed for justice for Carlos and for the resignation of the governor, pointed out as the political figure responsible for the order to repress. Within a few days, the Fuentealba case transcended the borders of Neuquén and gained national significance. In various provinces, massive mobilizations, road blockades, silent marches illuminated by candles, and protests in front of government buildings took place. Even sectors of society that normally did not participate in demonstrations expressed their solidarity, transforming the figure of the murdered teacher into a symbol of the struggle against institutional violence and in defense of public education. Sobish, for his part, tried to minimize the tragedy, justifying the police repression as a legitimate action to maintain order. However, popular indignation had already reached a boiling point, and his political image deteriorated rapidly. With increasing social pressure and the clamor for justice resonating throughout the country, a long and tortuous judicial process began. From the outset, the authorship of the fatal shot was clear. Corporal Jose Dario Pobletti, a member of the Special Police Operations Group, had been unequivocally identified by witnesses and footage at the exact moment of the attack. In 2008, Pobletti was brought to trial and sentenced to life imprisonment for the murder of Carlos Fuentealba. Although Pobletti's sentence brought some relief, it did not completely silence the yearning for justice. The questions persisted. Who gave the order? Who were the political figures responsible behind that fatal decision? A disturbing fact came to light. Throughout 2012, Pobletti left prison repeatedly without authorization, as proven by investigations by the Zapala prosecutor's office. Suspicions of tampering with the logbook also hung over the case. The lack of control over the former police officer who committed the crime became public in June when he was photographed walking through the city center. Only in 2023, 16 years after Fuentealba's death, did justice seem to advance significantly. Several high-ranking police officers involved in the operation were finally convicted of abuse of authority. However, Jorge Sobish, pointed out from day one as the main political figure responsible for the repression, never faced direct judicial consequences. He, who instead of acknowledging his mistakes insisted on the legitimacy of his actions to restore order, ended his term deeply weakened and disappeared from the national political scene. Despite never being formally convicted in this case, the stain of political responsibility accompanied him throughout his subsequent career. In the social imagination, the figure of Carlos Fuentealba quickly became a symbol. In the years that followed, every April 4th, students, teachers, and social organizations continued to mobilize, not only to honor Fuentealba's memory but also to reaffirm the defense of public education and repudiate any form of state repression against social protests. His name echoes as a constant reminder of the struggle for justice and dignity in education. Thank you so much for watching this story. Your presence and support are essential for me to continue creating quality content. So, if you enjoyed this story, please like and subscribe to our channel so you don't miss any new episodes. Your subscription and comments are fundamental for me to keep bringing quality content. Leave your opinion in the comments, always with respect for the victims, and together let's build an even better community. Thank you so much for following my work, and I'll see you in the next episode.